So we're here with a very special guest, one of my favorite vocalists ever, Aaron Lewis of Stained. They're
Thank
back
you.
with a new record, Confessions of the Fallen, coming out in September. New music out now. You've got Lowest in Me. So great to have you all back, man. I'm so excited that Stained is actually back. And, what's the reception been like to the new music?
It's been really good. I mean, we've only been playing the one song, Lowest in Me, but the reactions so far have been really good. And, I was a little nervous going into it, not gonna lie. I haven't gone at this speed for quite some time. But it seems that it's kind of just like riding a bike.
Right.
Might be a little intrepidatious at the beginning, but you're like, oh yeah, I remember how to do this. And it's been good. It's awful early.
The reception though has been, and I was telling this to Mike, that it's like, oh, there's a band that's coming back and it's a novelty, but these are real bangers that you all are putting out, like Lowest in Me. As soon as I heard that, I was like, fuck, this is good, man. Like, I really loved it.
I mean, that's kind of been a little bit disappointing for me.
Yeah.
As far as, the whole throwback thing and the whole what you were just saying. That wasn't our goal. We just didn't want to abandon what we sounded like all these years. And I mean, if you really start listening and paying attention, there's a lot of stuff in there that wouldn't have been in there otherwise, just by the way the songs were written. Mike gave me he sent me a bunch of files that were just song ideas, little pieces of stuff. And I sent him back completed songs that me and a good friend of mine, Paul, we sat there with programming and beat machines and we created songs out of the pieces. And we had to do it that way because COVID. Everything was locked down, so he just sent me the ideas, and it gave me something to do, and I got industrious, and I sent him back songs that were done, that all they had to do was go back and put their parts in playing it live, and the drummer had to go back and play the drums for the beat machines that we had used. And but there's still a lot of interlude-y stuff, and like when it drops out of the heavy chorus and goes into the verse, I made sure that a lot of that programming stuff that we had done to create the songs around those ideas was still there.
Sure.
So there's a lot of new, today's thing going on in there too.
Right.
I guess I just wish that people wouldn't listen to it that way.
Right.
As a throwback type of a thing. I wish it could just be listened to as new music from a band, and not why you always got to compare it to something.
My thought was more so like, these are objectively huge songs. Like you said, it's got that modernization to it and everything, and your voice on, like, the first time you hear Lowest in Me, it's like y'all never skipped a beat. Obviously you've been killing it in the country game.
I really can't complain. The country game has been an interesting game for me because radio won't play me. Because I have a mouth, and I tend to use it and say things that some people don't really like what I have to say, but that's okay because we live in America, and we have the Constitution, and we have the Bill of Rights, and we have these things that we are born with, and one of which is to be able to say whatever the fuck you want to say. If you don't agree with me, you don't have to listen. And it's your freedom of speech to not agree with me and to give your opinion. I don't see where the breakdown is.
We went to see you at the Chartway Arena in Norfolk, and to hear the way that you play these Stain songs a little bit different than what people are used to seeing, these beautiful, where you incorporate like the dobro in and all that kind of
Uh,
stuff. Man,
for the solo shows, yeah.
so cool. We
Well, you
love
got to
that.
kind of recreate it a little bit. Anytime I play something that isn't something that was written for an album that I put out,
Right.
I try to do it my own way.
Yeah.
Even a Stain song, if I'm going to do it acoustically, I'm still going to switch it up and try to do it my own way in a different version, and it's still the same song. I mean, there's a version of Mud Shovel out there where I turned it into a country song, and the melody is completely different. Everything is completely different, but the words are all still Mud Shovel.
That's amazing. We were listening to on the way up here, and I love the covers that you do as well. Like even like Alanis Morissette, Ironic. We were blown away by that. It was so fun,
That's
and
a fun one.
the thing I love about you is that you've always been someone where you talk about like rock stars and stuff. I don't know, I'm not inside your head, but you seem like a guy who truly doesn't give a fuck, where you keep it real 100% of the time. And
You get the same person on stage as you get me sitting here right now. I'm just not in sweats.
so I want to talk about sort of I like to talk to people because I grew up listening to Stain. Really, you're one of my favorite bands ever. Break the Cycle, all of the late '90s, early 2000s for me had. I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for these albums and the impact they had on me. And I wanted to talk about like kind of from your perspective how Stain came together as a band. Like, what was that early scene like for you?
Um, well, I worked landscaping with a guy who played bass, and and I met Mike at a Christmas party after a show that everybody went to at the Infinity, which is really where we cut our teeth eventually. And I met Mike at this party, and then I bailed. I bailed. I went to Atlanta. I lived in Atlanta for a year. I went to a goldsmithing school and learned how to be a jeweler, and went back home and worked for my uncle who had a jewelry store, and that was pretty short-lived. And then up here in the Northeast, there's a company called Hanoush Jewelers, and I went to work for them in their factory making the jewelry that they sell in the stores. And while I was working there, I ran into, and it's like a small world full of three. The girl who worked at the jewelry place was Mike's roommate, who at that party that I'm talking about where I met Mike, something happened upstairs at the party, and there was somebody kicked a candle over something. There was wax everywhere, and Mike's roommate came downstairs blackout drunk and furious and looked around the room, and the only person that he didn't know very well in the room was me. And he grabbed me and he jacked me against the wall and put my head through the wall.
Oh my goodness.
And but it was his girlfriend. It's just crazy how the whole thing of it happened. It was his girlfriend that worked at Hanoush. And that was how I ended up reconnecting with Mike, because I bailed. I was gone. I had a phone number for him, but I don't even know. I didn't have it at that point. I'd lost it. And me and Mike hooked back up again. And the first thing that we did was write a song. And it was like that.
I'm not trying to gas you up here, but you have a very great voice.
Well, thank you.
When did you know, like, man, I gotta get on board with this singing stuff? Like, when did you recognize that you wanted to pursue music?
There's pictures of me at 4 or 5 years old sitting there on the stool in the middle of the whole band. My dad was having band practice. My dad always played out.
Yeah.
He still does to this day.
I'm sure he's so proud of you.
I would have to think so,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't think I need to assume. I think I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Fuck, what was I talking about?
You were talking about, your dad would play out. There's pictures of you.
Pictures at 4 or 5 years old with a set of maracas in my hands and a microphone. So, I mean, I was already singing then. I was the kid that would go up to you and yank on your pant leg and be like, "You want to hear me sing a song?" Like 4 years old. Rhinestone Cowboy was a big one that I would want to sing to everybody.
That's so cool.
But that's foreshadowing right there as to how I ended up in country music, because my whole childhood's the soundtrack to every good memory that I have in my childhood has country music in the background.
Right.
So.
And that's something I want to talk to you about. The year or so you did this before this was a thing now, where you took your rock credibility and anyone who can hear your voice is like, man, this guy could kill it in country, and you're an amazing songwriter. And now there seems to be this special movement that's starting to happen where rock and country, which I think a large part of, you would know this much better than I would, the way I see it, I love country music, is a big portion of Southern rock has sort of gone into country music, where you look at a lot of...
Well, I mean, even further than that. Like, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been battling Jelly Roll on the rock charts. On the rock charts for #1.
Yeah. What do you make of Jelly?
I love Jelly.
I love that guy so much.
Oh, he's awesome. We're buds.
Such a charismatic and lovable guy.
Oh, he's the sweetest, nicest. I mean, it's kind of pretty obvious.
Yeah.
He don't come off hard.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he's from the streets out there, but
yeah, but he don't come off hard.
Right.
He comes off sweet and genuine, and he's a good human being. He's genuinely appreciative of what he's got going on.
And he respects the people who came before him in this game too.
You know why? Because he came from nothing.
Yeah.
I came from nothing. We lived in a trailer park. My dad sold the trailer, and we moved into a cabin that he bought on the side of a mountain for $1,500.
Wow.
That's what we moved to. And when he was done with that cabin, he sold it for like 80.
Wow.
And that was the leg up that we got. That was how we ended up out of a trailer park and into a middle-class neighborhood.
Right. And I think there is something about that where you look at artists who came up and they came from, not a life of wealth or anything like that. And that's got to motivate you to really, go 110% in everything you do, in your music.
I don't know where it comes from, but I am extremely driven.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know of very many people in the business that work as hard as I do.
We mentioned.
I mean, I play every weekend, all year long.
Yep.
I take I drop one weekend of shows to create a 10-day break for 4th of July. And in the middle of December, when the whole industry shuts down for a month, so do I.
Yeah.
And that's it. I play 3, 4, sometimes 5 shows a week for the whole rest of the year.
I wonder, and I asked Mike this, and we mentioned, how much you tour. You're gone all the time with country and rock. How, do you ever get burnout on the road? Is it ever something, how do you manage life on the road?
Embrace it. This is my journey. This is why I'm here. This is God's plan for me.
I love that.
And it's cost me a lot. And it's given me a lot.
I'm sure there's sacrifices with being out on the road as much as you have, and going around the world and all that as many times as I'm sure you have.
I've missed most of the meaningful stuff.
Yeah. But you've added a lot of meaning to people's lives around the world through your music.
That's why I just have to trust that this is God's plan for me.
Yep. So I don't know if this is true. You come out, Mike says, basically, at some point you meet, I'm a huge Limp Bizkit guy. They're also one of my favorite bands, that whole era. And I think this is such an incredible story. Two mind-blowing stories. One, if someone meets Limp Bizkit, y'all open for them, and there's a demo tape that gets passed, eventually makes its way to Fred.
And he tried to kick us off the show. He didn't even listen to the music, just from the CD cover.
What was it?
It was Mike having a little bit too much time on his hands, and and it was a little section in his attic, and he kind of created this little, like, it would almost be like Jobu's little area in that baseball movie, but there was a knife stuck in a Bible, and the Bible was bleeding.
Oh.
There was a Barbie on a crucifix. Like, there was some crazy shit on there. At the time, we weren't signed. We were just trying to get anybody's attention, good or bad.
Right.
If you either freaked out about the cover, or you listened to the music and you liked the music. Either way, we were trying to get your attention. So I think I met John Otto first.
Amazing.
And John brought me in because I might be known to smoke a little bit. So me and John, we were gonna partake, and he was like, "Let me go grab Lee." So then DJ Lethal came into the mix, and I believe it was Lee that I gave the CD to, that he went and gave it to Fred. And Fred, not knowing anything, we were just a local opener. We actually got the gig because the other local opener that they had booked for the show couldn't do it.
Right.
And we had been good friends with them. And unlike a lot of the bands in the area, it wasn't a competition for us. You know, we liked you. You were a good band. Come open for us.
Love that.
And if the show was theirs and they had a big following at the show, come open for us. So this was one of those bands. And they called us and they were like, "Look, we can't do this. You guys want to do it?" And we were like, "Hell yeah."
Yes.
And I remember Fred coming out to the main bar, because that's where me and my wife were standing at the time, and throwing the CD across the bar at me, and it had been sliding it down the bar, and was like, "Bro, what the fuck is up with this shit? You guys a bunch of fucking devil worshippers or something?"
Whoa.
And I was like, and I explained that it was just merely for shock value. And it was too late to throw us off the show. But instead, he stood side stage. That was what happened. He would have been on his bus.
Right.
He wouldn't have been watching the local opener.
You got his attention.
It was that frickin' CD cover that got his attention.
Wow.
And because of it, he stood side stage and watched our entire set.
Wow.
And at the end of the set, when I walked off stage, he threw his fucking arm around me and walked me down to the dressing room and told me that he was going to get us a record deal.
Wow. That is wild. That changed the course of history for
Completely.
rock. That
changed our course of history for sure. And it's fucking crazy because, again, he wouldn't have been inside to watch any other local opener.
Right.
Why? I guess maybe looking for new talent, but he certainly wouldn't have stood there intently paying attention for our entire set.
Right. when you look over and you see him, and this is like when $3 Bill Y'all was out, right?
Oh, it was before anything had even gone gold or anything.
That's amazing. So even before Limp Bizkit had taken off, he was involved in like, because or helped break a lot of bands. I mean, he helped Y'all's career, helped Puddle of Mud. You know, I mean, I loved
Cold.
Yeah.
Trying to think, those three for sure.
That was the scene that I grew up like. I was like 8 years old listening to Mud Shuffle like on the radio at night, and then Loveline would come on and stuff, and it was like those were the days for me. It totally like corrupted me
Yeah.
as a kid. You know, so then there's Outside, and there's this famous story of a tour I wish would
Remember
come
Metal
back.
Shop?
Metal Shop,
The radio, like it was like Metal Shop.
I don't think I heard
remember
that. It was like an alarm clock that was like $20 that I had, and I
Nice.
would just go to sleep on a timer, and they'd be like, "This is Mud Shovel," and it came on, and I was like, "Fuck, this is tight." You know, that riff kicks in, and you can feel my, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fucking pissed." I'm like 8 years old, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is my shit." And I mean, that just from there, then y'all started appearing on MTV all the time, and I was hooked on MTV as a kid. And I remember they did a feature on did a feature on the Family Values tour, and I think you come out.
That when I got the tattoo
yeah,
by the fucking 16-year-old kid that fucking tattooed me on camera for fucking MTV.
Yeah.
This stained right there on my wrist, and the flames all coming up out of it. But that was the one that he did right there on camera for MTV.
and we're gonna put a clip in of that. I mean, you come out on stage and you play Outside, which is to this day one of the best rock songs of the last 30 years, in my opinion. Strong opinion. You sort of improvise that, right? I mean,
Not sort of. When I went into the dressing room before our set, I was trying to play the hidden track off that first record as the last extra song, or an extra song in our set that night. And he was like, well, if you play that song that you were coming up with while you were at my house writing the first 4 songs of the first record, Dysfunction, I'll come out and I'll sing it with you, because I remember the chorus. The chorus has stuck with me that much that I remember the chorus, and I'll come out and sing it with you at the end of the show if you do that song. And I was like, okay. And I walked out of his dressing room and about died, because all I had for the song was a chord progression and a solid chorus. And I'd been fucking with the song, playing it in there was a thing that I used to do back in Springfield before we left Springfield, and we called it J-Cat, because it was John, Chris, Aaron, Tori. So it was J-Cat. And I would improvise. I did that with It's Been a While too. I can't tell you how many times I played It's Been a While with different lyrics. Only It's Been a While is what stayed.
right.
And then the chorus would finally stay. So then I had It's Been a While and the solid chorus, and I would just ad-lib, just playing local shows at like Breakers Pool Hall in West Springfield.
Right.
And so I would do that with both songs. I had the chord progression and a solid chorus for Outside, and It's Been a While and a solid chorus for It's Been a While. And both of those songs just kicked around. But Outside, I had improvised it a bunch of times, but I had never locked anything in stone. So when I went out there on stage, I had the chord progression and the chorus locked in stone, and the rest of it was me improvising again
Crazy.
in front of 14,000 people, all getting caught on video as it happened. So that original Outside video, where you can see my hand shaking, the sweat is just, it's because I was riding a bolt of lightning at that moment, and solidifying and finishing that song in front of everybody.
And it went on to become, and I remember too, that recording of the actual performance of you improvising was on the radio
It
over.
blew up the Family Values 99 CD
Yeah.
because that was the only place you could get it. And like, I didn't even know it was getting released as a single. All of a sudden, I was just hearing it on the radio. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was a truly, to look back, it was truly a life-changing moment.
Yeah.
Just like that frickin' CD cover and that interaction with Fred right there. That was a life-changing moment again.
Do you ever, Limp Bizkit's been having a big resurgence. Do y'all ever keep up? Y'all ever stay in touch or anything? Or
I mean, we've tried to over the years,
Busy.
Especially with when I changed genres and we're not running into each other
Right.
on a regular basis anymore. I've lost touch with a lot of people that I was once pretty close with.
Yeah,
Just simply because our paths don't cross anymore.
totally. And I would love to see,
And one of the things that we do a lot too is we change our phone number.
yeah,
So most of the people that I had a phone number for at one time or another, it's not their number anymore.
Did you deal with that when you had this newfound fame where a lot of people would hit you up and go like,
Can I get tickets for the show tonight?
Yeah.
Still happens to this day. Be like, bro, I haven't talked to you in 30 years. It's not even a, hey, what's up? How's life?
Yeah.
Tell me about everything. How's your kids? It's straight to tickets.
I do. I think it's interesting how you see with people. I've met people that'll say like, people treat you really different after you become famous and successful, and it's like lonely, at times when you have that kind of success where you feel isolated.
It has been an extremely lonely adventure. It's really beyond anything that I can explain because you're surrounded by people. Everybody wants to get to you,
Yeah.
but they can't because of the structure of all of it. And the loneliness is consuming. That's why we all end up so fucked up. We've either turned to drugs, we've turned to alcohol, we've turned to illicit behavior, turned to all these things to fight off the fucking loneliness and emptiness and this void that just keeps fucking growing inside you. You've been pulled away from everything that means anything to you. Your family, your wife, your home, everything is somewhere else. And that emptiness, it just fucking grows. And it consumes you. I don't have to contemplate very hard to understand why so many of my friends aren't here anymore. It's not at all what everybody thinks it is. At all. It gets glamorized to such an extent because we're living our dreams. There's many forms of dreams. Nightmares are dreams too.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that this has been a nightmare by any means at all.
Right.
I'm just saying that it ain't what it looks like from the outside.
I recognize that probably is a tough thing to deal with as an artist, for sure. And talking about artists like, this is another record that had an impact on me, and it was a remix record, Reanimation, Linkin Park. Your remix of Crawling with them. What was your relationship like with Chester?
One of those that was really close until our paths kind of changed, and that's one that fucks with me a little bit.
Yeah. It was a profound loss.
Because I know what he was up against from word go before he was up against anything in the industry. And we come from similar places, and we share a lot of the same childhood trauma. You know, I've just really never talked about it at all.
Yeah.
I've always steered clear of it. And he didn't. And I always looked up to him for that, you know. Jonathan from Korn, another one. Just always looked up to him for having the fucking balls to say the shit that he said in songs. Chester fucks with me a lot.
He certainly has had a lasting impact on this music, and you know, I'll never forget that, and it was heartbreaking, but I am thankful for the music, you know, forever.
I'm grateful to have known him and to have called him my friend.
Yeah. And that was a beautiful rendition of Crawling that you guys did together. I mean,
that was like, took us like 10 minutes.
Really? Obviously, you put tremendous amount of effort into it too, but I mean, a certain element to you where it's just like you have a natural, your voice is just so distinct and profound. And
well, I guess if we're being forthright about it, God gave me an advantage to most.
yeah,
I physically have the thickest vocal cords that any of the ear, nose, and throat doctors in the industry that see all of the singers' throats. I have the thickest cords they've ever seen. Like, they've had to check with each other, like to double check and stuff. But yeah, physically, I have. So Dr. Sugarman out in Beverly Hills, I don't even know if he's still alive anymore. He was so old when he saw me. He's seen every singer's throat from Elvis all the way through the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. Anybody that was a big name in the industry that had vocal issues throughout that 50 years, he has seen them if they were out on the West Coast and in LA. Thickest vocal cords he's ever seen in his whole career.
that's incredible. I like to learn from the wisdom from people. One of the questions I like to ask people is, what's the best advice you've gotten in life or in your career? What's something that you've learned or picked up on that's really stuck with you? Any sort of lesson.
Treat people good no matter what direction you're headed, up or down. Because on your way up, all those people that you treat like shit, on your way down, you're going to be dealing with those same f***ing people that you treated like shit on your way up.
That's so true.
And on your way down, they don't have the same reasons to butter your muffin, you know? They on the way up, they have their own ulterior motives, and they have their own reasons for wanting you to go up. On the way down, it's not quite the same thing.
Is the music industry as deceptive as people characterize it as? Is it as bad?
More.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry to laugh at that.
More.
Wow.
More.
So you really have to watch your back out here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's more than everybody thinks it is. It is all politics. It's all in who you're in the good graces with.
Yeah.
So, I run into roadblocks all the time.
I mean, it's amazing the stuff you've been able to do in country. And like one of my favorites, that cover you did of Traveling Soldier with, I don't know who it was you were singing with,
My
but
daughter.
that was your daughter?
That was Zoe.
I didn't
At
know
13 years old.
I did not know that.
That was my daughter Zoe at 13.
That is incredible, man.
And she wants nothing to do with this industry, and I don't blame her. She's seen the other side.
Yeah.
She's 21 years old and has a father, but he really hasn't been there for all the special moments. You know, as I said, there's been a lot of sacrifice
Yeah.
and a lot of loss with everything that I've been so blessed with.
Right.
It's a double-edged sword for sure.
I do think, and that is a double-edged sword, the good aspect about it, I swear to you, I listen to Break the Cycle 15 to 20 times a year to this day.
It's awesome.
At the gym. Is there any songs that you haven't played for Staying Live?
Oh my God, so
lot?
many. Like, I go back, if I'm actually in the very odd mood that I have to get into to go back and actually listen to the records, or if there's a tour coming up and there's songs that I have just mentally unfamiliarized myself with, I go back and I listen and I'm like, holy shit. Like, there's so many songs we haven't played. Right now we're playing a song, Wannabe. Up until this tour, we had played it once. Literally once. Wow. It was a special evening where we played the whole new record from beginning to end on that record, whichever one it was, I don't remember. And that was the only time we ever played that song until this tour. So, but yeah, there's songs where I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about this one. And I wrote them.
Right.
It's my words.
How many songs do you think you've recorded over your lifetime? Probably hundreds.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
And do you have a studio like in your house that you work on stuff with, or you go to?
No, I have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, as much of a work ethic as I have a really hard time sitting down and just writing a song. Just to sit down and write a song because I got nothing else to do right now. Why not?
Right.
I can't. That's why I'm not writing songs for Nashville.
Sure.
I know all the people to get in with and to write with that those songs will end up on radio for country.
And you've written with some, like, who's the gentleman?
I've written with Jeffrey Steele.
That's who I was going to mention.
I've written with Bobby Pinson. I've written with Trent Tomlinson.
He did What Hurts
Chris
the
Wallen, like, yeah.
Jeffrey Steele's a monster writer.
Me and Jeffrey, it's me, Jeffrey, and Ira that wrote Am I the Only One?
Yeah. I mean, he has an incredible writing, history of, and your cover of What Hurts
When we're
the
done,
Most.
I'll play you a couple of the new country record songs.
Dude, I would love that.
It's stripped down again. No, nothing but a couple acoustic guitars, a mandolin here and there. That's it. It's a completely acoustic record again, just like the last one. So that I want it. It's still considered country because of the solo path that I went down on, but it's not.
What would you consider it?
It's just an acoustic record, like songs stripped down to their core. If it can't be good, if it's not a good song stripped down with all the production taken out of it and all the layers and all the amplification and everything, if you can't play it on an acoustic guitar and stop everybody in their tracks in the room, it ain't a good song.
Aaron, that was the thing that struck me when we saw you with your solo act, is you had this whole fucking room with this stripped down performance. very bare bones performance, and people were singing every word. You know, there were people in tears, like when you're singing like "So Far Away" and stuff. That song, that had to be one when you first heard that after you record it, you knew that song was going to go somewhere. I mean,
So that song came from, in the recording process of the record, everybody above us had heard the record. This just goes to show how little the people that are really controlling things have a frickin' clue as to what they're even talking about.
right.
Business side, okay. Music side, get the fuck out of here. So the record was done, and we had somewhat turned it in. What do you think? This is what we've got. We don't hear the first single. Record label 101.
Yeah.
Like, that is the stock answer. We don't hear the first single. So, me, knowing full well the songs that I had just handed in, so think about all the songs that came out as singles
Right.
on 14 Shades of Grey. So Far Away was actually the fourth single off the record, which means single number 1, single number 2, and single number 3, they had heard already and came back to us with, we don't hear the first single. So I was pissed. And what they did was they brought in the DeLeo brothers, Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh, okay.
Brought in the DeLeo brothers, which is the guitar player and the bass player, which they were the principal writers pretty much in Stone Temple Pilots. So they bring in the DeLeo brothers. We play them the record. They're fucking rocking out to the whole record. They're like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? You guys have a great record. I don't even know why they called us in here. So I'm pissed. And I disappear. And I came back 10 minutes later with So Far Away.
Wow.
And it was the fourth single on the record when they told us they didn't hear the first single.
Right. And that was a huge record, packed with hits. So you become, and I just like to think about people's motivations. Do you think you're better creative under pressure when you're like kind of pissed and you're like, I'll show them? Do you think you have a chip on your shoulder, like as a creative person, like you want to prove, I'll show you how great of a writer I am?
At times.
Yeah.
At times, I feel called out by people's actions and their words. And,
Yeah.
But to go back a little bit in what you just said about the pressure, amazing things happen when I'm under pressure. Outside happened. The record that we put out when I was touring my first country record, and
With Not Again on it.
and Country Boy was blowing up, and I was touring that. So I was playing, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and coming home on Sunday and in the studio Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, fly out, go play a show. We were 36 hours from going past the deadline of when we had to turn in the record. And I knocked out 6 songs and finished the record with like 3 hours to spare.
That was chronicled in like the documentary, wasn't it? That was, yeah.
Yes.
That was like a
That
frustrating...
documentary is edited like a motherfucker too.
And it was still it was like some kind of monster. Y'all were we need that in rock, in my opinion. Like, I respect y'all for having the guts to show, like, hey, were under pressure making this album. Maybe there was tension there at the time. You know, people I think are attracted towards what's
Mike,
real.
Mike, and I, and the only reason I'll even say it is because I've heard him say it. He thought that I wrecked our fucking career. Like he thought that record was the fucking worst piece of shit, including, was it Wannabe? Wannabe was on that fucking record.
I think
Because
so.
I remember laughing about it. Oh my God, we were having so much fun writing it and just pissing our pants laughing. And then Mike got it, and Mike was like, I want to quit.
Wow.
But that was a rough record.
Yeah. I respect the hell out of y'all.
John, our original drummer, parted ways with us on that record. Mike was ready to quit because he was so in it. It took him a good month or two when I got a phone call from him.
Right.
And he was like, listen, I'm sorry. This record's incredible. I'm sorry. I was buried in it. I apologize for saying the things that I said.
And you guys have so much history, and you've moved mountains together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems very also when he was sort of telling sort of the early eras of Stained as well. You guys were so aspirational, like you weren't sitting around waiting for things to happen.
Big thing too is when you get to that thing you're chasing, you have to be willing to walk through the fire to see what's on the other side. There's going to be a massive fire in front of you that you have to walk through to get to your goal. And the fire is obviously symbolic.
Sure.
But you have to walk through the fire. You can't repel from the fire. You're not going to go anywhere.
Right.
That's life in general.
Yeah.
Life in general. When you come to roadblocks, when you come to a forest fire, you have to walk through it to get to the other side.
Yeah.
And it usually is very rewarding
Yeah.
when you do that.
I've listened to the Confessions of the Fallen record. I've only gotten to listen to it once, but on first listen, it's a great fucking record.
I honestly walked away from the recording process of that record feeling like it'll stand up against any of our records.
It really is. It's a quality.
It might even be the best record that we've done yet.
Yeah.
Like I don't like saying things like that.
Sure. It's a really good
But
record.
I certainly didn't walk away from it with any sort of reservations whatsoever.
How was the process? I mean, was it a stressful or like everything seemed like you guys are all seem to be
Modern era, bro.
Yeah.
Stressful. I didn't see anybody for the whole entire recording process.
That's crazy.
Not one.
Wow.
Mike did all of his stuff on his own. Johnny did all of his stuff on his own. Sal did everything on his own, and I did everything on my own.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Do you think, I mean, where do
We didn't
you
even
see,
do it all in the same spot. It was all over the place.
as a selfish Stained fan, you think you guys are going to continue touring and finding some way to do that? You think like,
Let's see how this tour goes.
yeah,
I haven't. The thing about the key difference between touring with Stained and touring solo for me is the overhead.
oh yeah,
So the overhead aspect doesn't really work very well with Stained for all of that production to sit while we go home for 3 days, like the country schedule.
yeah,
Country schedules weekend warriors.
yes,
That's why Nashville is such a great spot, because it's a perfect hub for most of the country.
right,
You can drive out of Nashville the night before and arrive at your venue in the morning. So I haven't done this for a while, even though I work really hard.
yeah,
I haven't done the rock tour, which is
Tuesday nights,
it doesn't matter what night it is. It's 3 in a row, a day off. 2 in a row, a day off. 3 in a row, etc., etc. It just perpetually keeps going. It doesn't matter whether it's a weekend night or a Monday night.
Right.
Doesn't matter. That's a harder schedule to keep. Even if I'm playing 5 days a week, I still get to go home on Sunday and Monday and
Right.
kind of ground myself for a second. So
That's the challenge. We'll just give us
Look,
Stained at festivals.
that Stained at festivals are easy.
Yeah.
Festivals are easy. It's, you know, you're rarely playing a full headlining set. Festivals are easy. Festivals are fun. The thing with festivals is that they're driven by radio play, and we haven't been on the radio for, aside from our old stuff, for so long.
Lowe's to me's doing great at radio, though. I think it's about to go number one.
Just officially went number 1.
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
But I'm up against Jelly. And all Jelly's people have to do, because he's so intertwined into the new way of getting to everybody, so all he really has to do is his people just have to notice that all of a sudden he's not in number 1 anymore, and they'll just amp it up. And who knows whether Stained will be sitting at number 1 tomorrow or not. But today, for an hour or two, we got through Jelly's front lines.
It's well deserved, because it is a great song. Well, Aaron, I am so grateful to you, man. I am such a fan of Stained. I love your country stuff. It's been an honor to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Right before my battery dies.
Perfect.
Aaron Lewis, everybody.